Today's topic is tapping the diverse career pipeline, which fits our box of evaluation framework. And we have our two gurus, as I stated before, Jeffrey and Kristin. Diversity Works created the DEI network because we found that the job of a DEI specialist, a director, has become a very lonely position and can be lonely in a lot of organizations unless you're lucky to have enough DEI leaders to shoulder the amount of responsibility on this network. What we have decided to do is offer an opportunity for education and insight and to communicate with others. And we, in our database and our network, we want to find an opportunity to have lively monthly events where everybody can participate and give us their insight. We have also provided information regarding data that we collect from, we sent out something on McKinsey, women in the workplace. We have a lot of insights that we do provide. So we just want to make sure we're communicating with everyone. We want early access to these insights. That's part of what our community holds for us. And as I said before, our topic today is getting into the diverse pipeline, looking at that. It's part of our evaluation framework. It's not just an isolated box. Here at Diversity Works, we have a different approach, not like other consultants. Sometimes other consultants come in and they talk about bias training, HR policies, and handbooks. And so we look at that possibility and opportunity to do that, a plan without, a tactic without a plan. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure that we are strategically, our approach is a data-driven approach. And we look at leadership, accountability, and we make sure that everyone understands their role. We look at the culture of the organization, and we really focus on the brand reputation. So as we continue, I really want to tell you a little about Diversity Works. We are a woman-owned company that evaluates organizations' DEI performance using this data approach. We believe that effective strategy is grounded in the strategies and to gain both access so people can understand the organizational culture. We can build DEI at a strategic level, and then we want to make sure we help that it's embedded. That's one of the things that we do. As we go through this, we look at our evaluation process. As I stated before, it's not just a cookie cutter. We really work with the organizations. And in this particular framework today that we're talking about with Parker Dewey is the evaluation framework is about talent and acquisition. It's not isolated. It's where you talk about employment, recruitment, engagement. That's part of the governance. We look at all of them, but this today, what Parker Dewey is doing is part of an internal process. We look at the external and the internal, and we're focusing on talent acquisition, onboarding, retention, and they have a great program. And it's important to understand the experiences of everyone. So today's topic will help illustrate the interconnectedness of all the domains that we here at Diversity Works strategize on and talk about when we work with other organizations. And Parker Dewey is a mission-oriented organization that help connect great talents. And Jeffrey and Kristin are the gurus, as I stated before. They'll discuss everything you wanted to know about micro-internship. What are the benefits? How do you partner with this organization? And I want to know, what is a micro-internship? It's not about biology or things like that. I think I got a kick out of the name. So I'm going to allow Jeffrey and Kristin to talk more about this because they're the expert and guru, as I stated. So to help me introduce Kristin and Jeffrey.
Thanks so much. Not sure I want to be a guru. Or not sure I qualify as a guru, but really appreciate it. So I'm Jeffrey. I'm the founder of Parker Dewey. Started the organization about 7 years ago. and started it really to try to improve the challenges associated with college to career, to help those college students that if they didn't have the quote unquote right academic pedigree, the major that sounded like the job title, the family connections who could get them that summer job or full-time role, really help create equitable pathways and do so in a way that also created true business value and impact for companies. So really excited to be here. Huge fan of Diversity Works and the mission. The work they're doing is just so incredible, and happy that what we're doing can play such a small part in the goals of organizations to really create equitable pathways and drive sustainable diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thrilled to have my colleague Kristin Scharder here. Kristin, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Great. Well, just really appreciate this opportunity to talk about something that is really relevant, timely, and incredibly important for what we're all trying to do in terms of just trying to make the world a slightly better place by providing more access and opportunity to individuals, irrespective of where they've come from and all these other different classifications. I came to Parker Dewey about 2.5 years ago, but was a big fan as I began my career in HR, experienced the challenges of recruiting early career talent. I mean, we all remember where we were in college, probably pretty clueless, probably not so sure what we want to do and so on, and trying to make these decisions with so few data points of what am I supposed to be when I grow up? Where am I going to be happy? What organization is going to check as many boxes as what I'm looking for? And then early on in my career, I found that I was really passionate about education, helping individuals figure out where they wanted to go and just launch their careers. So long story short, ended up in higher ed, career services, a bunch of different schools as my husband's in the military and I move around quite a bit, and found Parker Dewey along the way when I was working with predominantly non-traditional students, those students that are juggling a million and one different things in addition to being a student. They're working adults. They have families in many cases. They have mortgages, so they can't just drop everything and go and do a traditional internship. And so when I found the micro-internship concept, it just made a ton of sense to me and the types of students that I was working with at the time. And now being on the team and seeing the value proposition of this model from all different perspectives, from the students, from the university partnerships and the nonprofit organizations who are trying to help their students and their organizations connect, and of course organizations who are trying to find great talent. It's just a real natural win-win-win. And so we're just really excited to share a little bit about what all we're doing here. And just to kind of kick us off, we all know, of course, DEI is important. We wouldn't be here if we didn't. And we also know that there's a lot of efforts that are going on, but so many of them are just not effective or not working. So many programs are just, okay, I have a diversity program, I check in the box, but is anyone really measuring with accurate data that its effectiveness or the retention of those effectiveness efforts and so on? So many students, especially if you're focusing on early career, which is what we're going to be predominantly talking about today, they don't want to read any more emails. I know as a busy professional, I don't want to read any more emails. So I'm sure we all can relate to that. Retention, even if you do get the folks, the seats filled, they don't tend to stay all that long. And so it's just really not hitting the mark and addressing the core issues. And on top of that, there's just so many different challenges affecting college students. And these were all occurring even before COVID, but have only been exacerbated since the last 2.5 years or so of the pandemic. They may not to attend whatever the focus school is for their target employers. They're limited to what opportunities they can do because of the other things that are on their plate, like the students that I was working with in my earlier lives. They were filtered out based on GPA, major, what school they go to, or whatever criteria. It's great that there are platforms that offer thousands upon thousands of opportunities to students, but it's overwhelming for both the students and the companies to be able to connect. And so, everyone has to filter somehow, and unfortunately, that does mean that oftentimes students, amazing students, are weeded out. There's preconceived notions of hiring managers. Oh, I only recruit at students at XYZ schools or what have you. And again, those are barriers that students don't have any control over. And then they also just have limited opportunities to explore, to figure out, what am I good at? Who do I need to know in order to make it to whatever XYZ field might be? So lots of different inherent challenges that every student faces, irrespective of where they go to school. We see these at the community college level. We see these at the elite liberal arts level, the research one in public institutions, and every school in between. But on top of that, there's a lot of challenges that employers are facing in their quest to find the quote unquote right talent. Jeffrey sees battles every day.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and when we started Parker Dewey, part of our goal was to create something that was sustainable. And the only way to do it is to make sure it's solving the challenges that all the stakeholders are facing, the challenges the students are facing, the universities are facing, and obviously the employers are facing. And this is what we're hearing from the students, from the employers, and all of this predates COVID. How do we engage students earlier? How do we introduce them when they're freshmen or sophomores to our company, to our field, to our industry, especially if they have preconceived notions about what it means to work at a technology company, or they think working at a bank means being a teller, or maybe they're not even thinking about working at a technology firm because they don't go to one of the fancy schools in California. How do you give them opportunities to sort of learn about companies, and for those companies to engage the students? Companies that may not be in the most common geographic locations, companies that may not be in the what's perceived as sexiest industries. How do you engage them and build those relationships, and do so in a way that gets through the noise? Again, even pre-COVID, companies would show up to career fairs and hope students would walk by, hope they could build that relationship. And again, with fancier swag or more interesting events, today it's become even more challenging with students inundated with emails. In fact, a recent report showed that 50% of college students are blocking recruiting emails. So how can companies get through that noise? It's also about building that employer brand. Again, a company like Pepsi, every college student knows who Pepsi is, but they're not necessarily thinking about Pepsi as an employer, because they say, I want to do technology or strategy, and they don't realize the amazing tech or strategy roles available at Pepsi. Well, how do you build that brand and then ultimately develop those authentic relationships to sort of improve outcomes? And again, this has been a particular issue during the COVID days, where companies have not been on campus. They're not building those authentic relationships between the students and the hiring managers. And that's why we see sky-high renege rates. That's why we see massive attrition. That's why we see, again, students not applying to companies unless they already have preconceived notions or are planning on it. So with that, we started Parker Dewey, again, about 7 years ago, really to help solve that challenge. We created what was essentially a micro-internship platform. We'll talk more to Denise's earlier question about what a micro-internship is. But we created this platform really to provide a resource for teams that need on-demand help, but do so in a way that provides pathways from college to career that supports students and companies alike. And as I said, we've been doing this for 7 years. We are incredibly proud of the company we keep. We've been working, as Kristin said, with universities ranging from community colleges to elite liberal arts to Research One to non-traditional post-secondary programs. We work with companies ranging from one-person startups to small businesses to some of the names you see here. And then we're just so proud of some of the nonprofit partners that we work with that are supporting those college students, whether it's organizations like the Dell Foundation supporting first-gen college students in launching their careers, or the UNCF Career Pathways Initiative, or the DeBruce Foundation in Kansas, just doing some really innovative things. So what is a micro-internship? Again, something that's become a bit more common over the past 7 years, but the way we defined it, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, short-term paid professional projects completed by college students or recent grads on behalf of busy professionals. And just to unpack that a bit, think about all of those 5, 10, 20-hour projects everyone on this call has on their own plate. We want someone to research and craft an article that we can share on the blog. We going to a conference next week and need help crunching a list. All of those we should and I shouldn't tasks that are important and valuable, but either you just don't have time to do it, or it's not the best use of time. Doesn't matter what industry, what department, what organization size, we all have those we shoulds and I shouldn'ts. What Parker Dewey has done is create a way to use these micro internships as a way to get support on those we should and I shouldn't tasks, and do so in a way that also supports other corporate initiatives. So just to unpack some of that a bit, again, typical micro internship is 5 to 40 hours, can be done year round and is on demand, typically done remote. We'll walk through some of this as we go through, but companies set the price for each project. Tends to shake out about $20 an hour, but it's a fixed fee, no back and forth negotiation or bidding. You set the price. 90% of that goes into the students' pockets. Parker Dewey does keep 10%. And the reason we do that is because the college student who you select to work on your project is not your employee, not your contractor or freelancer. They're on Parker Dewey's books. So we handle all of the accounting, the tax, the payroll. We handle it all. And by the way, should it turn into a full-time role or a summer internship or anything else, awesome. We're not a staffing firm. There's no temp to perm. So again, you set the price for each project with 90% going into the students' pockets. Think about how much organizations spend on campus recruiting or other events that winds up going in the pockets of, again, software vendors or hotels or the like. This money is being used to pay the students, those students who can't afford to do unpaid internships, those students who may not be able to attend career fairs because of other obligations. This truly creates that equitable opportunity. A couple other things to note. Again, these are projects that are similar to what you would give to a summer intern or a new hire. It's not walk my dog, fetch my dry cleaning or the like. These are real projects. Again, they're professional, but they're short-term tasks. They also don't replace existing efforts. They don't replace your summer internship program. They don't replace your full-time hiring. You spend time on campus, great. You should continue to spend time on campus. Nothing can replace those relationships you're building. Where micro-internships fit in is, as one of the college students described it, it's like going on a date before the quote unquote engagement of the summer internship or the marriage of the full-time role. And what that means is for the hiring manager that says, gosh, we only recruit 3 nines from Ivy Leagues. Well, it's just a date. We're not asking you to get engaged to this student who, again, came from a different background or school. Let them help you on a project. See how wonderful they are. And what it does is it changes behavior. And it changes behavior because everyone wins. So the busy professional values that on-demand support. They value the extra set of hands they can get on this project. They value the opportunity to give back. They value the opportunity to provide an opportunity to a highly motivated college student who may not have that opportunity. And then the university recruiters also appreciate the benefits. They love the fact that this helps them engage college students freshman, sophomore, junior year, students who might not be thinking about their company or their role. It helps them build authentic relationships. It helps them ultimately make the right hiring decisions as they no longer need to rely on academic pedigree or who someone knows to decide who gets the summer internship or the full-time role. And as Kristin can share, the students value the experiences as well.
Exactly. Students are hungry to put what they're learning in the classroom to work. That's why there's been such a movement towards experiential education and embedding it into curriculum and doing all these wonderful things. Well, micro-internships don't replace any of that. This is just another way for students to have even more data points to be able to make a more informed decision about what is the right fit for them. Would I be a good fit into sales versus marketing versus HR? Right? Would a better fit for me be a smaller company versus this industry versus a government agency or what have you? We all go in with so many different preconceived notions or expectations, and this just helps everybody to make a better informed decision to make sure that they're ultimately, when they graduate, are not only landing a role, but landing the right role for them. And what we've seen is that it works. Not only is it a win-win-win, but it's working for all of these different entities. One of the data points that we're just most proud of is what you see on the left, and certainly relevant for our conversation today, is that the students that are completing micro-internships, 80% of the time they are from underrepresented backgrounds. And compare that to the NACE data around those from underrepresented backgrounds who are able to do paid internships. It's a pretty stark contrast. And we don't pat ourselves on the back for this, but rather this is, I think, a better reflection of what American higher education is all about. It's a diverse pool of students. And what's really wonderful about the short-term micro-internship model is that it is more accessible. And one thing that we have always been firm about from day one is that every single micro-internship on our platform must be paid and paid fairly. And that is just to remove the barriers of unpaid work. We just fundamentally don't think that they're fair because it just precludes so many students from being able to participate at the onset.
And to jump in, it's unpaid work in all forms. I mean, there's a lot of discussion around challenges and all of these sort of ancillary programs where you go and you do a 10-hour project. And if you do a good job, your resume gets prioritized for an interview for a summer internship. Like, we need to be careful of these unpaid internships in disguise. That a lot of them are couched as diversity initiatives, but at the end of the day, wind up limiting only to students who can invest 10, 20, 50 hours in doing unpaid work.
Exactly. And I see in the chat, like the middle one around the cost savings. I mean, obviously, this is certainly relevant for any of you who have summer internship programs or do on-campus recruiting. And just to put some kind of meat behind the data here, we have a recent testimonial success story from a medical device company, Smith & Nephew, that goes to career fairs, but a medical device company, it's not exactly a well-known household brand for a typical college student. And so they were struggling to fill some of their roles, particularly with sales. And so what they did, and they've done this several different iterations now to prove the point, is they posted a project as a micro-internship where it was essentially pick one of our products, do a sales pitch, design kind of a marketing presentation, sales presentation, and then deliver it. And it was a project that was expected to take 6-7 hours. And they chose a bunch of different students from a bunch of different schools, all of which then became individuals that were added to their talent pipeline. And several of those ended up receiving full-time roles. And my favorite part about this is those students not only were excited about doing the work and getting the experience and all, but then those students that received those full-time roles, 100% of them converted. 100% of them accepted the offer. But even more importantly is those that weren't even able to get that offer still got paid internship experience. And a way to think of that is like they were being paid to do an interview. And if you think of how much time everybody spends doing the whole recruitment process and all of that's unpaid, it's like a full-time job when you're really sitting down to it. And so it's just a really egalitarian program that we're excited to see. Not only is it fair, but it's also effective and significant cost savings. In the case of that particular company that mentioned before, what, Jeffrey, it was like between $500 and $600 per head is what it crunched out to.
Yeah,
ultimately.
it wound up being I think it was like $600 was their cost per hire, which for anyone familiar with the NACE survey is about 10% of what the average cost per hire is. Not 10% savings, 10%, 90% savings. And by the way, that money, again, went into the student's pocket.
Exactly.
That was not money spent on having a third party blast emails. And what I also love about it is, again, back to the impact on the companies, not only did they save money, not only did they make better hires, the data shows it leads to better retention. So better conversion, and when the students accept the job, they stick around.
So we all know and love numbers around here, or at least we kind of are forced to, even if we don't really, regularly enjoy numbers. And so, one thing that we're very excited to track is some of these different metrics around the impact not only of micro-internships, but also depending on these different programmatic goals. What are your goals for this particular micro-internship initiative? And one of the trends that we've been seeing over the past several years is whether it's a company or a university or a nonprofit organization, but they are using micro-internships en masse so that they can see a really macro effect of a micro-internship program to be able to measure a whole variety of different data points, such as what schools are being engaged through this program, what academic majors, what types of projects, what are the demographics of those students who either apply or are ultimately hired, and perhaps more importantly, what is the feedback, what is performance, the outcomes, and all of this we can track and provide reports like what you see here, depending on, again, what your different initiatives and goals are. Because ultimately, all of this is about driving meaningful value towards your different initiatives and programs. And so just a few testimonials again from the company side about these are opportunities that are just allowing you to connect with students that you otherwise would have missed. And that's kind of a big take home, especially relevant when we're here talking about diversity recruiting at the early career level. And then even from the student's perspective, just the different opportunities that micro-internships have had as a way to differentiate themselves. And when they look at these particular students, Legend, for instance, he was having a hard time standing out because his GPA wasn't quite whatever the mark was that companies were looking for. Whereas Fabian, he kept going to career fairs, but he just didn't have, quote unquote, the right experiences. But by doing micro-internships, that gave him more talking points so that by the time he graduated, he actually ended up with more job offers than anyone else in his academic class. Yaira did these more as an opportunity to gain experience when she was in graduate school. And Yashin already had a job offer, but this is a way to continue to build her skills and network even after she was finishing up her senior year. There was just a lot of different motivations from the student's perspective. And again, we're just real excited to be able to bring all of this together through these opportunities. We'll now kind of touch on how it all works. So Jeffrey.
Yeah, I was going to say, you want me to? Yeah, everything. Yeah, so we'll go through real quickly at a tactical level how it all works, and then we'll go through 4 examples of how actual companies have used this and implemented it within their organizations. One of the things you'll hear a lot as we talk through is easy. That was one of the things that was just core when we started this 7 years ago. It's still core today. I used myself as an example. If Jeffrey wouldn't do it, if Jeffrey found it difficult, we had to change it. This had to be Jeffrey proof. So everything that we did here is designed to make it easy. Essentially, to use micro-internships, it's 3 steps. You post your project, select who you want, and the work gets done. There's no administrative burden. You don't have to stress about 1099s or W-2s. You don't have to worry about which colleges or campuses or anything else. Everything is designed to be easy. And again, we'll walk through. So the first step of it is you post your project. You basically tell us what you need done, when you need it, and any other details you have. So by the way, we've made this easy too. We've even created templates based upon the past 7 years of, hit too fast. Templates from the past 7 years of some of the most common projects. So if you're a marketing professional, you probably need blog articles written. Guess what? We have it templatized. If you're in HR, how great would it be to take a job description and have a college student crawl through LinkedIn to find you 50 candidates? No problem. Or maybe you want to see how your job descriptions compare to other companies. Not an issue. You want to create a diversity best practices manual. We've done it thousands of times. These college students are so inherently motivated and excited to work on it. And again, having been doing this for a long time, we've made it really easy. So what you need, when you need it, and any other details. Once your project is posted, it goes out to our network of millions of college students, and they can see the description of it. So unlike the emails they're getting bombarded with saying, please visit our ICYMI site and apply to our full-time role, nothing against ICYMS, or please come to our career fair, or please, students are coming on to Parker Dewey literally every day, if not several times a day, seeing what new opportunities are there. And as opposed to, again, saying, please come to our career fair, companies like Northrop Grumman are saying, hey, we have a real project where we need help doing an analysis of competitors in the blah, blah, blah space. And we think this will take you 20 hours and you'll be paid $500 for going and doing it. Well, that sounds pretty good. As a college student who might not have been thinking about Northrop Grumman, as a college student that thought all of the roles at Lenovo were only for IT majors, seeing an opportunity to be involved in business development is pretty exciting. So students are getting engaged. They're excited to work on these projects. It's no longer about how do we convince them to show up to an event. It's rather, how do we decide which one we want to pick, because they're just inherently motivated. And that's what's great is the students control this. So once you post your project, students make a decision if they want to apply. Maybe they realize they don't have the right skill set. Maybe it's finals week, so they don't apply. You're not flipping through thousands of resumes trying to guess. Or the student who's from North Carolina, who's studying marketing who wasn't thinking about a role at at Lenovo because they're not computer science. Well, guess what? Lenovo has a big presence in North Carolina and loves to engage marketing students. And they see that project and that marketing student applies. And by the way, I use the example of marketing students, but one of the beauties of this is we found that major has little to nothing to do with student interest, engagement, and selection. So that student who's studying philosophy or history or English is applying and having access to these opportunities too. And for companies, that gets so exciting because we know the core skills that are most valuable are things like communication, problem solving, analytical thinking. Well, guess what? Those are the skills honed in liberal arts programs. So this becomes a way to access those students and see them in action. Anyway, the students apply. You see the profiles of all the students. You can certainly see where they go to school in their LinkedIn and resume. But more interestingly, every project has at least one short answer question. Why should we pick you? You can ask second, third, fourth questions. How would you approach this? What do you want to be when you grow up? Whatever you want. But it's amazing. Even a simple question like, why should we pick you? Teases out so much. The student who might have the 3.9 GPA from the fancy school might write, I have some free time. Or their answer is riddled with typos. Well, guess what? Don't pick them. And we actually see that happening. Or the student who might come from a less academically selective school or not have as high of a GPA or as fancy of a resume describes his or her passion. I had never thought about the healthcare space, but I'm passionate about it because of X, Y, and Z. And this is why I think, great, let's give him or her a shot. Once you select the student, the work gets done. And again, this is where we try to make it easy. You engage how you want. If you're an organization that uses Zoom and you want to hop on a quick 5-minute Zoom call with the student, great. If you want to just send an email, no problem. You want to hop on a phone call, awesome. Once you kick off the project, you decide how much or how little you want to engage. So I just had a student work on a project for me where they were writing an article. I said, hey, can you get the first draft done? Or can you send me an outline next week with some of the feedback, and I'll give you feedback. And then she did the first draft for me. I gave her a couple of edits and then she finalized it. That was how I wanted to engage. Other companies say, no, just send me the final one. Other companies say, let's check in every day. So again, you engage how you want. Parker Dewey's behind the scenes providing all the supports. So we're not doing the work for the students. We're not proofreading it, but we are making sure everything goes great. And we have an entire client success team that makes sure of that. That said, 98% of these projects actually exceed the expectations. Again, 98%. That is absolutely crazy. Think about that. These projects are given to highly motivated college students. Over 98% of them outperform what's expected for an intern or new hire. And part of the reason is, again, the students are inherently motivated, but part of the reason is also the amazing work that the colleges and universities are doing. That Jeff is working on a project, might go to a professor for office hours. Say, hey, I'm doing a market size analysis, Professor Jeff. I'd love to pick your brain. Can I get some feedback? Or is working on a project for McGraw-Hill and sees that Kristin is an alum of her school and in the education space. Hey, Kristin, can I pick your brain on this? I'm doing this analysis of virtual charter schools, and I know you've spent time in the industry. I'd love to get your insights. It's driving those authentic relationships between students and alumni and faculty and other professors, which we know are so incredibly valuable to those students as they're looking to launch their careers.
Jeffrey, let me just touch on that with a specific anecdote. There's a question in the chat as well around how faculty are using micro-internships, and we'll dig into that more, but there's a program that's launching at community college level real time within the next month or two. But it's a project that the students do this really cool assignment as part of their public administration class, all about how they can make their community a better place. And as part of that, they write a research paper, they have to interview a public official depending on what the project is and so on. But the micro-internship is going to be about doing some sort of project around making progress towards making that whatever they've selected of the world a better place. So whether it be drafting an article, whether it be pulling together a social media campaign around that particular topic. And then this not only is a research paper that they're doing and they've always been doing as part of this class, but they now have an additional added assignment that goes into their electronic portfolio that they can talk about, that they get that faculty feedback and even feedback from that government official. And so it's just a real nice rounding out of that whole experience. And so we're real excited. Just wanted to share that particular anecdote.
Yeah, no, and it's great because, I mean, at the end of the day, look, the projects are valuable and important. The busy professional appreciates the work getting done. The student appreciates the opportunity to put it on the resume and get paid, obviously. But the reality is these micro-internships are catalysts. They're catalysts for something more. It's a catalyst for Jeff as the student to reach out to the faculty member or the alumni. And instead of saying, hey, Kristin, let's talk about the bars at OSU or how bad the basketball team is. I went to Indiana, so I'm always happy to make fun of Ohio State basketball. Now we could say, hey, Kristin, again, I know you're in this industry. It creates that catalyst for the conversation. It's also that catalyst on the company side, that for that hiring manager that pushes back on HR about, yeah, we don't usually recruit from these schools or these majors or these GPAs. Here's a catalyst to introduce someone from a different background into the organization, to let that hiring manager see how amazing someone is, irrespective of academic pedigree. Mm-hmm. And again, these projects are designed to be easy, but one of the things we want to talk about is what are some strategies that the folks on the call can use to introduce them within the organization based upon what we've actually seen. So Kristin, you want to kick us off here?
Yeah. The first one is something that we can all relate to, no matter who we work for or what kind of things we have on our plates. But we all have a million and one different things. We've kind of coined them the we should or I shouldn't types of tasks. So we really should update our website to say such and such, but gosh, that's a big project. Who has the time? Or, I shouldn't be the one to have to spend my Saturday updating a PowerPoint to reflect such and such. And granted, I can imagine we probably have all done some of those different things here and there, but wouldn't it be great to delegate that to a highly motivated college student?
I do less of it now.
That's true, which is good.
We eat our own cooking.
We do. Yeah, we do. I've had one working with us just about 2 weeks ago, actually. But just to give you an idea of kind of how we help or organizations facilitate that. We're jumping ahead here.
That was my bad.
Oh, here, I'll let you.
I'm going to let you control. I'm done.
Oh, fair enough. But at any rate, so we developed these different portals. So, for example, Xylem is an organization that I know I had never heard about, but it's multi-billion-dollar organization that is all focused on providing fresh water internationally and doing all of this different science and against different initiatives all across the world to again bring fresh water to these places where that's not been easy to find. And of course they obviously have scientists, but then and engineers and so on, but they also have sales teams and supply chain and HR and marketing and so on. And so as part of their micro-internship program, they have a initiative where we can go ahead and host projects, give them examples based on whatever department that they're in, where they can see these different project examples. And again, make it easy so that they can get the help they need right away. Similarly, as I mentioned before, Smith Nephew and organizations like that, rather than funneling those dollars towards career fairs and the like, is they're using micro-internships as an audition for those hiring roles. So in the case of Smith Nephew, it was for a sales role, where it's give a student a project that's related to what they want to do long-term or what they're recruiting for, and see how it goes. Have one student do multiple, or if you have 10 students do one project, and then you can really evaluate the students one-to-one. And similarly,
now it's my turn to control.
See,
this is what happens when we both have one of the things we've actually seen is a tremendous usage of the employee resource groups or business resource groups. So Microsoft has an ERG called BAM, Black at Microsoft. And one of the things that they've been doing is positioning this or providing this as a perk to members of BAM. So as opposed to just doing t-shirts and events and all of the other stuff, what they're doing is saying, hey, as a member of BAM, we're going to give you a benefit. You have any little projects on your plate that you don't have time for, whether it's tied to your work with BAM or your day job in marketing or sales or IT or whatever? Here's a benefit. You can engage a micro intern, a college student, on a project and get an extra set of hands. How wonderful for you. We're just going to ask that you pick a student from a background similar to your own. Members of BAM love this. First of all, they loved it because who doesn't love a sort of an extra set of hands to help on those we shoulds and I shouldn'ts? But what they also loved is they saw it was Microsoft making a real commitment to providing equitable pathways. It wasn't just the banners. It wasn't please show up at this career fair because we need someone that looks like you. They were actually creating real pathways for individuals from, again, non-traditional backgrounds. And what was great is not only did the existing employees love it, but the students loved it. They could start to visualize themselves at Microsoft. They were building relationships with individuals from backgrounds like their own. And it led to better conversion into summer internships and full-time roles and better retention, both of the new hires and the existing employees. So again, we've seen some really powerful things tied to, again, ERG initiatives. And then the last strategy is tied to community support. Oops, now I do need to flip the slide. Great example of that is Northrop Grumman. Northrop Grumman has been a significant supporter of Capital Collab and the Greater Washington Partnership, an amazing organization in DC focused on college to career transition and equitable access. Well, one of the things Northrop Grumman saw was it's great that we're writing our check, but how do we continue to make sure that we are truly providing equitable pathways into Northrop Grumman, especially given that some of the schools are ones we haven't historically recruited at, and students might be self-selecting out because they have preconceived notions about Northrop, or we're filtering them out because we're relying on things like academic pedigree still, even though we know it's not the right thing to do. Well, through their work with Parker Dewey and Capital Collab, they created a series of micro-internships specifically for participants in those Capital Collab program, creating, again, these equitable pathways. They're real, they're sustainable, they're authentic, which is what gets me excited. So as we approach sort of the last 15 minutes, which I was told we were supposed to leave for questions, I guess my biggest takeaway is what now? Well, a few things. First, post your project. You all have we shoulds and I shouldn'ts on your own plate. Go post it. There's a great portal. Again, we'll share the link in the chat specifically for participants in this Diversity Works program, where we've taken some of the most common projects and you can post them on your own. Second, let your colleagues know. Share it with your colleagues. Let them know that this is an option. Next time someone comes to you, whether it's from your department or a different department, let them know, hey, you could post a micro-internship. Maybe it's a great way to get that on-demand help, or maybe there's an open role they're trying to fill. Well, here's a great opportunity. Third, consider a program. Consider doing something more sort of holistic, where you're linking it to some initiative like the ERG program, like your work in a specific community or with a specific school. And then finally, ask us. We are happy to help. Kristin and I are obviously incredibly passionate about this, as is everyone here, just like the team at Diversity Works. Let us know if you have questions. Let us know if you have ideas, things you didn't see here but were wondering about. Most of the ideas we shared here aren't ours. They're all things that we heard from companies, schools, other partners, and they were excited to see them shared. So please, again, let us know if you have questions. And with that, we'll open it up to questions.
Thank you. Thank you. If your questions were not answered, you're welcome to raise your hand and go ahead. At this time, you will be unmuted. And what I liked about what Jeffrey and Kristin said is it drives meaningful value. And this is a great opportunity, especially filling the gap. You can talk more about that also, Jeff, the gap regarding the fact that we're not able to get a lot of young people to come to work. This is a great opportunity to fill that diversity gap. You're able to.
I mean, Xylem, I saw a comment in the chat about making a pledge. I mean, that was one of the things I was most excited about Xylem. Xylem did a very small program, I guess it was late last year, that tested out. Let's see if micro-internships actually work. Do our managers use them, et cetera? Went swimmingly well. What they made a commitment for, and I don't know if it's been publicly announced, so shh, don't tell, but they shared with us that they're going to be providing, I won't share the number here, but a significant number of micro-internships specifically tied to their diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives for students at HBCUs. So this is one of the ways they're putting their money where their mouth is, that they've recognized that there's an opportunity for them to do more, to create equitable pathways, but they also saw the business value of it. So this wasn't a charitable gift. They do that also, but they said, we believe that there is great talent at the HBCUs that we're missing. What a great opportunity to sort of engage them and provide the students with real opportunities to learn about Xylem. And where they come work for us or not, that's okay. They still got valuable experience and got paid for doing it. And hopefully some percentage of them will turn into employees for us.
Thank you, Jeff. There was a question about asking regarding whether this is only US based or is it also global? Could you comment on that?
Yeah, as of today, we are US based. We work with international students. We can work with international companies looking to engage US students or international students studying in the US. Later this month, there will be some opening to specific geographies around the world. Denise, I think you're still on mute.
Sorry. One other question was about students not affiliated. I believe you may have answered that. Could you comment on that? Someone wanted
Yeah.
to go ahead.
Yeah, no, just a clarification. So we have over 500 different university partners. However, we are an open platform. So even if a higher education institution is not officially a partner of ours, their students are welcome to utilize the platform as long as they find it useful. Same with alumni, career transitioners, et cetera. We see a lot of different use cases. That being said, always happy to talk a little bit more about how institutions are being more strategic in bringing these opportunities to their students, and just it creates a really nice catalyst and just an additional way to engage in support of your students, but engage alumni, your employer partners, faculty, and a whole bunch of even the local community. And so it's pretty exciting. I know Roderick's been very active in the chat, doing a lot of amazing things at UNC Chapel Hill, and so happy to share just different best practices. Also, just to be clear,
Roddy Appleseed.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to be clear, is there's no cost to any of the partnerships as well, just in case that's a factor.
Yeah, and one thing I want to hit on, again, since day one, we have been an open platform. We have always wanted every student across the country to have equitable access to this. So it has never been limited to certain schools, certain majors, certain GPA. We have always been a big tent, and we love partnering with the schools. We think it drives incredible outcomes for their students and their institutions themselves. But as Kristin said, there is no cost, and we give them a ton of data. It goes back to our mission. We are trying to fix college to career however we can.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we've have most of the questions answered. If we have not responded to your questions, if you would raise your hand or just come out. But we want to tell you, and keeping up with our schedule, with the time, about our May event, which will be designing a training curriculum that fits. Often organizations seek to cross off DEI training by contrast, diversity workshops, or just do one training biases. And what we do here, we want to make sure that the companies design an appropriate training curriculum. That's what we do here at Diversity Works, except it's not a cookie cutter program, one fits for all. We hope to expand about your DEI training. So we would love to have you next month in our May event, which is going to be about designing a training curriculum that fits your organization. If I didn't say it before, Diversity Works is a woman-owned organization, and we are here to make sure we help organizations really look at DEI strategies, not just on one level, but a whole package, and so that it could be embedded within their everyday program.
Even the dog agrees.
Sorry. Okay, great. If Elizabeth or Holly would like to say anything at this time, we want to keep in touch. Want to make sure we keep in touch. You could follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow us on Twitter.
We just want to thank Parker Dewey.
Oh yes, of course.
We're great friends with them. We've been in touch with them for 2 years, and we are, as the joke goes, we're not only friends, we're customers too, and just love their enthusiasm. But as a customer, their support is really incredible. You know, we reach out and say, you know, we need help thinking through this project, and we get a response almost immediately. So I can't recommend them enough as a customer.
And we have used one of their micro interns, and it's just been phenomenal. So we could vouch for that. And I won't say his name, but if he is in attendance, happy to really pop in. But we walk the walk and talk the talk, and really have done great work with this individual. He's done a great job for us so far.
We have a great team. We are very, very fortunate. Everyone loves what they do. Again, it's nice when you go to work every day and you're passionate about what you're doing. And the slide Kristin walked through at the student stories, that's why we're all here. So everything that we do ultimately comes back to, are we helping college students launch their careers? And again, it makes it easy for us to do our job. So thank you, especially with folks like y'all. And I saw a question in the chat about alumni. We usually, again, you'll hear us say students, but the reality is we use the term career launchers, meaning college students, graduate students, and recent college grads. So again, we are big tent. So for folks who graduated college and maybe they're still looking for that perfect job, or maybe they took a job and realized 6 months in it's not the right fit or got caught in a layoff, we totally welcome them, and we think it's a great opportunity for them to engage.
You know, the last thing I'd like you to talk about, Jeff, I put a comment about it. I think the fact that you asked for feedback at the end of the project for the student is so critical, because I know I often manage people right out of college and they've never received professional feedback. And sometimes they're straight A students and they've never been given any feedback, really. And so for them to get that experience of constructive, positive.
And to get it when it's actionable.
Exactly. Can you talk a little bit about that, and then we'll wrap up?
Sure. The feedback's something we take very, very seriously and have since day one. So after a project is complete, the company can leave feedback. Made to be easy, students are rated on things like timeliness, attention to detail, presentation quality, etc. It's like 5 things. And then you can leave free text feedback. Hey, Jeffrey, you were amazing. And then there's also the ability to leave confidential feedback to Jeffrey. Hey, Jeffrey, you did a great job, but next time you work on a project like this, you might want to think about these 2 or 3 other things. What's important about the feedback is the student gets it and it's actionable. What's also important is we don't use a 1 to 5 star system. So it's not that Uber issue where everyone's a 1 to 5. The students are rated on a scale of as expected for an intern or new hire, above, below, or execute like an industry veteran. So you get much more nuanced, usable feedback. And then finally, that feedback is not shared publicly. So there is no public rating of Jeff being a 1 star and Kristin being a 5. And that's important because we want it to be useful and authentic for the student. We want it to be valuable. We also want a student to be able to make mistakes, that maybe they work on a project that they stretched themselves and didn't do as great of a job. Well, that's okay. That's okay. And we want the student to learn from it. Now, granted, if we see students consistently having issues, we will deal with it. But in 7 years of doing it, it's happened less than a handful of times. We're also able to share that feedback with a student's academic institution. So I think Kristin showed some summaries of reports before, but when a school wants to be able to provide better counseling and mentoring and support of students, they have access to that feedback. One of the things that we saw that was super interesting was a liberal arts program we were working with found out that students were doing insanely well on marketing analytics projects. They had never realized it. So they use that data to be more proactive in engaging companies with strong marketing analytic practices to recruit on their campus. Other schools might find that Jeffrey is that straight A student, but gosh, his attention to detail is not there. How valuable is that for when Jeffrey's with the Career Services Office to be able to get that feedback and be able to learn from it? Again, it's pretty powerful.
And another liberal arts stat, an additional anecdote from a demographic standpoint, found that the first generation students were not engaging with their micro-internship program. And that was a big aha for them because they realized, wow, we are not tracking this. We are not effectively reaching out to our first generation students. And so it was a big aha so that they could work on some of those initiatives as well, just again, from a diversity standpoint.
Awesome. Parker Dewey has been a great partner with Diversity Works, and we want to continue and maintain that. And thank you very much for the presentation. And we had some great responses. We want you to follow us if you can. And also don't forget our webinar, May next month. We always on Thursdays, the third Thursday of the month, May 19th, designing a training curriculum that fits. We want to make sure again that you really, we would like to have that discussion about what works for your organization. We've been doing some different coaching training, and we're finding that works for Diversity Works. And we would love to hear what others are doing and what they're saying. Again, good day. We want to give you back a few minutes, 1:56, so that we know that it's you're trying to rush back to work, and we really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And follow us again. Thank you. Thank you for attending.